BMW M5 is the original super saloon. Think fast four-door, and over the last 30 years and 5 generations, the M5 has pretty much had the market sewn up, until the Mercedes-AMG E63S turned up earlier this year with 604 bhp. But with this all-new 6th generation M5, BMW is fighting back. The 4.4-litre twin-turbo V8 now produces 592 brake horsepower and 750 Nm of torque, while there's also a new 8-speed automatic gearbox that sends all that power to all 4 wheels.
So, yes, the M5 is now 4-wheel drive, but BMW purists, dry your eyes, because this is M Division's xDrive system, and it's completely different to a normal 5 Series with 4-wheel drive. The other benefit is massive traction. This car will do 0 to 62 in 3.4 seconds, and it means you can use near enough every one of those 592 brake horsepower all of the time, coming out of corners like this, 3rd gear, just lean on it and it really pulls. And that's because that maximum torque is available from just 1800 RPM, so it makes the M5 incredibly tractable.
The 4-wheel drive system is a big part of being able to drive the M5 hard more of the time. There are 3 different modes: 4-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive sport and 2-wheel drive. 4-wheel drive gives plenty of security no matter what the conditions, while 2-wheel drive lets you play with the M5's beautiful balance on track. So it's no surprise a near 600 bhp super saloon in 2-wheel drive mode can drift for Germany. However, it's the 4-wheel drive sport mode that unlocks the real character of the new M5. BMW's active M differential really helps to turn the car through a corner on the throttle and improve agility.
This is still a big car though, and while there is a lot of grip, there's not too much connection to what the front end is doing through the steering. It's nice and direct, and you can get more weight if you ramp up the different modes, but comfort is the nicest setting actually. And while there isn't that much feedback, at least the presence of those front drive shafts doesn't corrupt the steering all too much. Of course, you can then modify the 4-wheel drive settings to change the balance and add a little bit more playfulness. But on the road, the M5 is devastatingly quick.
But this is a super saloon, so you have to be able to use it as one car to do many things, and thankfully the M5 doesn't disappoint. While the drive modes mean it's ultra configurable, it's got a big boot, there's plenty of room inside, and it feels special, just like an M car should. But there's no getting away from the fact that this is a performance car, and it certainly delivers that.
For a turbocharged motor, the 4.4-litre V8 really revs as well. I mean, that's just about 7,000 RPM. And the gearbox, although it's an 8-speed automatic now rather than the 7-speed dual clutch that was in the previous car, it really snaps through changes nicely. So downshifts going into the corner, lean on that traction on the way out, pull the paddle, next one. It's so fast. It's got so much ability, this car. And while there's loads of traction to make the most of that torque, unfortunately, the noise isn't the most entertaining. I mean, it revs and it makes a nice sort of flat blare, but compared to an E63's V8, it doesn't have that character or that richness.
The E63's engine might be more effervescent, but its chassis feels firmer even in the comfort setting. If you're using cars like these every day, you want a soft, luxurious ride too, a wide spread of ability that covers both ends of the spectrum, and the M5 doesn't disappoint.
Now, ride quality, because we're on the optional 20-inch alloy wheels. There are 3 modes for the dampers. We're in comfort at the moment on a fairly smooth road, but there are some undulations, and actually it's not too bad. Vertical movement is quite supple and it's controlled quite nicely. Well, if you ramp it up into Sport or even Sport Plus, you can feel the body being tied down a little bit more tightly. It does impact comfort a little more, and you feel the bumps a little bit more jiggling over rough surfaces, but it means you can carry incredible speed because, let's face it, this is nearly a 2-ton car, maybe more depending on what options you go for. So it's a lot of master control and there's plenty of performance, but the chassis does a really good job of just getting on with things. It's just a shame then that that steering isn't that little bit more communicative.
So, There's no doubt the M5 is a deeply impressive super saloon, but it's still not quite perfect. It's actually not the controversial switch to four-wheel drive that holds it back. In fact, with this much performance, it gives you better access to it and more control, with the option to indulge in typical M-car behaviour if you really want. Instead, it's the steering and the character of that engine that are the very slight nagging doubts. But in all other respects, the new M5 is an unquestionable.